Have you ever wondered what it was truly like to see the world through the eyes of our Ice Age ancestors in a time of giants and starlight? We're about to journey back 20,000 years, not to a world of primitive struggle, but to one of profound ingenuity and breathtaking beauty. It's always so amazing to think about how far our shared story stretches, both into the past and around the globe. I'm always curious, where are you listening from tonight? And what time is it in your part of the world? Go ahead and find a comfortable spot, let your mind settle, and prepare to step into the past. Welcome to Sleeping Scribe, where calming history stories help you unwind and gently fall asleep. Tonight, we travel to the last great ice age to join our ancestors on the vast and frozen plains of the Mammoth Steppe. Just as the sun begins to rise on the most important day of the season, the day of the Great Hunt, the air is thin and sharp, so cold it feels solid in the lungs. Darkness still clings to the world, a deep, star-flecked indigo that has not yet surrendered to the dawn. From the mouth of a shallow cave, sheltered by a granite overhang, 5 figures emerge. They move with a quiet that is born of lifetimes spent in a world of profound silence, a world unbroken by the noise of machines. The only sounds are the whisper of the wind and the muffled crunch of their fur-lined boots on the crisp, hard-packed snow. One of them, the eldest, pauses and looks to the east. A faint line of pale violet is just beginning to trace the edge of the horizon. He holds up a hand, a simple gesture, and the others stop. They are a family, a small, tightly knit band of hunters, their bonds forged not just by blood, but by the shared hardships and triumphs of this immense, frozen world. They have hunted together for years, and their movements are a symphony of unspoken understanding. The pre-dawn light is weak, but for them it is enough. Their eyes, accustomed to the low light of caves and the long nights of winter, miss nothing. The leader, whose name we do not know, but whose wisdom is etched in the lines around his eyes, crouches low. He runs a gloved hand over the frozen earth, where the wind has scoured the snow away. His fingers trace the edge of a deep, cloven hoofprint. It is fresh, very fresh. This is the beginning of the stalk. The art of reading the story the land has written overnight. This single print tells him so much. It is the track of a steppe bison, the great, shaggy giant of these plains. From its depth, he can feel the animal's immense weight. From the splay of the hoof, he can sense its age. A slight drag mark from the left side suggests it is an older bull, perhaps one whose strength is just beginning to wane. This is the one they seek, not the young and foolish, nor the strong mothers with their calves, but a veteran of the steppe who has lived a full life. This vast and frozen landscape they traverse is known to us as the Mammoth Steppe. It was the single most extensive biome on Earth during the last glacial maximum, an immense continuous ribbon of cold, dry grassland that stretched from the shores of modern Spain, across all of Asia, over the Bering Land Bridge, and deep into Canada. It was a world shaped by cold, but teeming with life. And for the people who called it home, it was a library of signs and stories. Every broken twig, every patch of disturbed soil, every scent on the wind was a word in a language they knew intimately. We see echoes of their journeys in our own time, in places like White Sands National Park, where the footprints of our ancestors are preserved in stone, telling silent stories of adults walking with purpose, of children playing along the shore of an ancient lake. The people we follow now are leaving just such a story on the land, one written in purpose and patience. The hunters move out, fanning into a staggered line. They are traveling light. Each carries a cluster of long-fletched darts, their tips crafted from razor-sharp flint. Held in their other hand is the tool that gives them power over giants, the atlatl, a spear thrower carved from wood or bone. A simple stone knife is tucked into each of their belts. It is all they need. They are walking into the heart of their world, not as conquerors, but as a deeply integrated part of its cycle. They move through the landscape as part of a seasonal round, a timeless rhythm of migration that follows the great herds. They know that this time of year, as the long winter loosens its grip, the bison will be seeking the first new grasses on the sun-facing slopes. And so they stalk. The sun has not yet risen, and the world is painted in shades of blue and gray. Long shadows stretch from the sparse, hardy willow shrubs that dot the plains. Each hunter's breath plumes in the pale light, a fleeting cloud of white that dissolves into the biting air. The leader holds his own spear shaft, its wooden surface worn smooth and warm from the grip of his hand. It is a familiar weight, an extension of his own body. He pauses again, crumbling a piece of dark, frozen soil in his palm before rubbing it onto his cheeks and forehead. The others follow his lead, using the cold clay to mask their human scent, to blend into the earthy smells of the steppe. The bison's sense of smell is keen, and a single stray scent on the wind could end the hunt before it truly begins. They move with an impossible slowness, a patient, rhythmic gait that eats up the distance without wasted energy. Minutes stretch into an hour. The silence is absolute. It is a silence so deep that the hunters can hear the faint whisper of ice crystals being carried on the breeze and the distant, lonely cry of a hunting owl returning to its roost. In this quiet, every sound has meaning. It is the key to survival. Finally, they reach the crest of a low, rolling ridge. The lead hunter slowly lowers himself to his belly, crawling the final few feet through the dry, frozen grass. The others do the same, their forms melting into the landscape. He peers over the edge, and his breath catches, not in a gasp, but in a silent moment of profound reverence. Below them, spread across a wide, shallow basin, is the herd. It is a sight that steals the air from the lungs. The world that opens up before the hunters is one of almost unimaginable scale and majesty. The basin below is a sea of pale, straw-colored grass, dusted with snow in the hollows, and moving across it are the giants, dozens upon dozens of steppe bison, their dark, shaggy coats, a stark contrast to the pale land. They are magnificent creatures, far larger than their modern descendants. A large bull, like the one they seek, could weigh over 900 kilograms, with a massive shoulder hump and horns that spanned more than a meter from tip to tip. Their low, guttural rumbles and snorts carry on the wind, a deep and resonant sound that feels as old as the earth itself. This is the world of the Ice Age, a world of giants. The average global temperature was about 6 degrees Celsius colder than it is today, a seemingly small number that had profound consequences. To the far north, massive glacial ice sheets, some several kilometers thick, loomed like frozen mountain ranges, locking up so much of the world's water that sea levels were 400 feet lower than they are now. This created vast new lands, like the Bering Land Bridge that connected continents. But the Mammoth Steppe itself was not a barren wasteland of ice. It was a unique and vibrant ecosystem, a cold, arid grassland, rich in nutritious grasses, herbs, and low-lying shrubs. This surprising diversity of plant life, able to thrive in the dry, wind-swept conditions, was the engine that powered this world of megafauna. The hunters watch the bison graze, and their eyes scan the wider landscape, taking in the full panorama of their world. Far to the west, a small family of woolly mammoths moves with ponderous grace. Their immense, curved tusks catch the first rays of the rising sun, glowing like polished ivory. They are the great architects of this landscape, a true keystone species. Their grazing habits, pulling up grasses and toppling small trees, constantly shape the environment, maintaining the open grasslands that so many other species depend upon. Not far from them, a pair of woolly rhinos tear at a hardy willow shrub, their heads low to the ground. A herd of wild horses, smaller and stockier than modern breeds, gallops across the horizon, their manes flying in the wind. Reindeer, too, are present in great numbers, their antlers forming a moving forest in the distance. This world, however, is not without its dangers. The hunters are not the only predators on the steppe. Their eyes instinctively scan the rocky outcrops for the telltale shape of a cave lion, a beast larger and more powerful than any modern African lion. They listen for the distant howls of dire wolves, whose packs are intelligent and formidable hunters in their own right. And in the deepest parts of their minds, there is always the knowledge of the giant short-faced bear, an impossibly large carnivore that could stand over 10 feet tall, a true monster of the ice. Even the sky is not empty. High above, a giant eagle circles on the thermal currents, its sharp eyes watching for any sign of a kill, any opportunity to scavenge. A relentless, biting wind sweeps across the open plain. It is a constant presence here, a dominant environmental factor that shapes the snow into long, sweeping drifts and carries scents for miles. The hunters feel it on their exposed skin, a deep and penetrating chill. They smell it, too. It carries the earthy scent of cold soil and the dry, sweet perfume of grasses that have been uncovered where the wind has blown the snow away. The sheer, uninterrupted scale of it all is breathtaking. The landscape stretches to a horizon that seems impossibly far away, under a sky that feels bigger and clearer than any we might know today. For a long moment, the hunters are simply observers, taking in the awe-inspiring majesty of their home. This is not a hostile world to them. It is a place of profound abundance, a world that provides everything they need, as long as they are willing to meet it with skill, courage, and respect. But the moment of awe passes, replaced by an intense and deliberate focus. The lead hunter's gaze settles on the edge of the bison herd. There, an old bull, just as the tracks had suggested. His coat is scarred from 100 battles. One of his great horns is chipped at the tip. He stands slightly apart from the others, grazing with a slow, methodical rhythm. He is the one, a perfect target. The risk of a stampede is lower, with an animal on the periphery, and his age means the chase will be shorter. The leader turns his head slowly, catching the eye of each member of his party. He needs no words. A series of subtle hand signals, quick and efficient, lays out the entire plan. 2 hunters will circle wide to the south, using a shallow ravine for cover. 2 will remain here, ready to create a distraction. He alone will make the primary approach from the west, with the wind in his face. The plan is simple, elegant, and born of countless hours of practice. It is a dance they all know by heart. The quiet observation is over. The confrontation is about to begin. The world of giants shrinks until there is only one giant, and the 5 small figures preparing to meet it. The tension is a palpable thing. It settles over the small group like a heavy blanket, silencing even the whisper of the wind. In their chests, they can hear the heavy, rhythmic pounding of their own hearts, a stark and lonely drumbeat against the immense quiet of the steppe. The hunters move like ghosts. The two who are flanking the herd disappear into the ravine, their fur-clad forms vanishing completely from sight. The world seems to hold its breath. The lead hunter begins his advance. He stays low, using every dip in the terrain, every hardy shrub as a shield. The cold earth presses against his body. He feels the frozen grit of the soil through his leather clothing. His eyes are locked on the bull. He sees the slow rise and fall of its massive chest, the cloud of steam that erupts from its nostrils with every breath. The animal is immense, a mountain of muscle and shaggy fur. To face such a creature on open ground requires a courage that is difficult for us to comprehend, a deep trust in one's skill, one's tools, and one's companions. When he is as close as he dares, he signals. On the ridge, one of the remaining hunters rises for just a second, a fleeting silhouette against the brightening sky, before dropping back down. It is enough. The old bull's head snaps up. It stares towards the ridge, its dark eyes trying to decipher the flicker of movement. It takes a few heavy steps in that direction, its attention diverted. It is the only opening they will get. Now, the lead hunter rises to one knee. The motion is fluid, economical, and silent. He brings the atlatl up. This tool, this spear thrower, is a revolutionary piece of technology, a true testament to the ingenuity of our ancestors. It is, in its essence, a simple lever, a stick with a hook or spur at one end that fits into the base of a long, light spear or dart. But this simple lever would change the course of human history. By effectively lengthening the hunter's arm, it multiplies the force he can generate. It allows him to launch a dart, not with the power of his shoulder alone, but with the explosive energy of his entire body, channeled through the flexing power of the atlatl. He hooks the dart into place. He can feel the perfect balance of the weapon system in his hands. The dart itself is a work of art, fletched with feathers to ensure it flies straight and true. Its point is a masterpiece of flint-knapping, chipped with incredible skill from a piece of chert until its edges are sharper than surgical steel. It is designed for one purpose: maximum penetration. He draws his arm back. His entire body coils like a spring. His focus narrows until the whole vast world disappears. There is only his breathing, the weight of the atlatl in his hand, and the shaggy flank of the great bison. From the ravine, the other two hunters now rise, showing themselves, shouting to drive the bull away from the main herd, to isolate it completely. The great beast bellows in confusion and anger, turning to face this new threat. It presents its side to the lead hunter. In one powerful, seamless motion, he stands and throws. The atlatl flexes, storing and then releasing a wave of energy that is breathtaking to witness. There is a sharp crack, and the dart is gone. It does not fly like a hand-thrown spear. It launches with incredible velocity, at speeds of over 150 kilometers an hour, 3 times faster than he could ever throw on his own. It whistles through the frigid air, a thin, deadly sound that cuts through the morning quiet. For a fraction of a second, time seems to slow. The hunter watches the dart's flight, his unwavering gaze following the path of the flint point towards its target. The other hunters have already knocked their own darts, ready to follow up if needed. The planning, the patience, the knowledge passed down through generations, it all comes down to this single, fleeting moment. This is the point of the spear. The thunderous sound of the giant bison's hooves pounds the frozen ground as it begins to charge, but it is too late. The dart strikes home, high on the animal's flank, punching through the thick hide and deep into the muscle beneath. The great beast stumbles. A deep, shuddering groan escapes its chest. It tries to run, but its back leg falters. The hunters do not cheer. They do not shout in victory. They simply watch, their expressions a mixture of intense focus and somber respect. This is not a sport. This is survival. The goal was never random violence, but a quick, efficient kill, one that minimizes the risk to themselves and honors the life of the animal. Their tactics, which we see mirrored in ancient kill sites, where animal bones are found with projectile points embedded within them, were designed for precisely this outcome. The bull takes a few more labored steps, then its immense weight can no longer be supported. It sinks to its knees, and then, with a final, heavy sigh, it rolls onto its side. And then, silence. The hunt is over. The intensity of the confrontation drains away, replaced by a profound and heavy stillness. The sun is now fully above the horizon, casting a golden light across the steppe. For a long moment, the 5 hunters do not move. They stand and watch the fallen giant, the steam still rising from its body into the freezing atmosphere. A life has been taken so that their own lives might continue. This is the fundamental truth of their world, and it is a truth they treat with the utmost seriousness. They approach the animal slowly, with a quiet reverence. The lead hunter kneels beside the bison's great head. He places a hand on its shaggy fur, the coarse hair still warm. He murmurs a few quiet words, not to his companions, but to the spirit of the animal. This is a moment of gratitude. Many ancient cultures held animistic beliefs, viewing the animals they hunted not as mere resources, but as powerful beings, other than human persons, who would willingly give their lives to the hunter if they were shown the proper respect. In giving thanks, the hunter ensures that the cycle will continue, that the herds will return next season. We see this deep connection reflected in the archaeological record, in the careful, ritualistic arrangement of animal skulls in ancient caves, suggesting a profound spiritual relationship. After the moment of thanks, the work begins. And it is hard, methodical work. They draw their sharp, flint knives. The knowledge of anatomy required to butcher an animal of this size is encyclopedic, passed down from one generation to the next. They know precisely where to make the first cuts to bleed the carcass, how to peel back the immensely heavy hide, how to separate the vast sheets of muscle from the bone. The rhythmic sound of their sharp blades is the only sound that breaks the silence. The metallic, coppery smell of blood rises on the cold air, a scent that will soon draw scavengers from miles around. They must work quickly and efficiently. Every single part of this animal will be used. Nothing will be wasted. The meat, rich and dark, will provide food for the entire clan for weeks to come. In the deep cold of this world, the steppe itself is a freezer. What is not eaten fresh will be frozen, or sliced thin and dried into jerky, or smoked over a low fire for preservation. The thick, shaggy hide will be painstakingly scraped clean with specialized stone tools and tanned to make warm clothing, blankets, and coverings for their shelters. The massive bones will be cracked open for their rich marrow and then fashioned into essential tools, needles, awls, spear points, and even beads for decoration. The long, tough threads of sinew from the legs will be dried and processed into incredibly strong cordage for sewing clothes and hafting tools. Even the stomach and its contents, rich in partially digested plants, might be used as a source of vital nutrients otherwise scarce in their diet. The physical effort is immense. They work in perfect coordination, their movements economical and sure. They hoist massive sections of meat, the weight of it a satisfying burden. This single kill is the guarantee of their family's survival through the lean weeks ahead. It is a moment of profound relief, a quiet and deeply felt celebration. They know that back at the camp, their families are waiting, and the meat they carry will be shared among everyone. This principle of sharing was the bedrock of their society, the social glue that allowed them to thrive in this challenging world. It ensured that the old, the young, and the infirm were always cared for. Finally, the butchering is complete. The hunters load the heavy portions of meat and the bundled hide onto their shoulders. The journey home will be long and arduous, a slow trek under the weight of their success. As they turn to leave, they cast one last look at what remains. They have left a feast for the wolves and the vultures, ensuring that even in death, the bison continues to give life back to the steppe. They are not just taking from this world, they are a part of its intricate, interconnected web. With their precious bounty secured, they begin the slow walk back toward the distant hills that hide their camp. The fast-paced action and intense focus of the hunt give way to the promise of warmth, community, and the safety of home. It's truly incredible to think about the courage and cooperation that went into every single success. What part of their skill do you find most impressive? The patient tracking, the powerful technology, or the deep respect for their world? It's a wonderful thing to ponder as we follow them on their journey home. The journey back is a slow and heavy one, a procession of deep relief and quiet purpose. The sun begins its long descent, painting the western sky in hues of orange and pale rose as the hunters trudge through the deepening blue shadows of the steppe. They are weary, their muscles aching from the strain of the hunt and the heavy burden they now carry. But it is a good weariness, a satisfying exhaustion that comes only from success. As they draw near to the line of low granite hills that shelters their home, a figure appears, a small silhouette against the fading light. A child, posted as a lookout, who sees them and turns, sprinting back towards the camp with a cry of joyous news. By the time the hunters make the final approach, the whole clan is there to greet them, not with loud cheers, but with a wave of quiet, profound happiness. The community is small, perhaps 30 individuals in all, an extended family of grandparents, parents, and children. They are the human warmth in this vast, cold world. The return of the hunters is the most vital of community events, a reaffirmation of their collective survival and security. Hands reach out to help with the heavy loads, and a path is cleared to the mouth of the rock shelter. To step across that threshold is to enter another world entirely. Outside, the wind is a constant, biting presence, and the cold seeps into your very bones. But inside, there is an immediate and comforting wave of warmth. It is the embrace of home. This is not a deep, dark cavern, but a wide, open rock shelter. A great scoop in the side of the hill that provides a perfect shield from the wind and snow. The ceiling, high and vaulted, is blackened with the soot of 1,000 fires, a testament to the generations who have found sanctuary here. Its upward slope provides excellent natural ventilation, drawing the smoke from the fire up and away from the living space, a crucial feature that made this place a perfect home. And at the center of it all is the hearth, the fire. It is the beating heart of their community, a deep, circular pit lined with stones. It radiates a steady, life-giving heat. The flames dance and leap, casting a flickering golden light that pushes the deep shadows back into the corners of the shelter. This controlled use of fire is an ancient skill, a technology stretching back hundreds of thousands of years, and it is the key to their life in this frozen land. It is their warmth, their light, and their protection, a glowing barrier that keeps the great predators of the night, the cave lions and hyenas, at bay in the darkness. The air within the shelter is thick with comforting smells. The sharp, pleasant scent of burning pine mingles with the rich, savory aroma of meat already beginning to roast over the crackling flames. The hunters lay down their bounty, and the work of dividing and preparing the meat begins, a communal effort where everyone has a role. The fire itself is fed not just with the scarce wood they can gather, but also with dried animal bones and lumps of fat from previous kills, which burn slowly and with great heat. The layout of the shelter is organized and intentional, something we can see in the archaeological remains of such ancient homes. There are distinct areas for different activities. Near the back, shielded from the wind, are the sleeping quarters, where soft, dry animal furs are laid out in thick piles, promising a night of deep and restful sleep. Closer to the fire, a flat stone is used for tool making, littered with tiny chips of flint from the morning's work. Another area is set aside for butchering and food preparation. The hearth is the social center that binds all these spaces together. It is where stories are told, where children watch their elders with wide, curious eyes, and where the bonds of family and clan are woven ever tighter. One of the hunters holds a thick steak of bison meat over the flames on a sharpened stick, its surface sizzling and turning a deep, rich brown. Others may be using a more complex method, dropping fire-heated stones into a hide-lined pit filled with water and cuts of meat, a clever form of stone boiling that creates a nourishing hot stew. The gentle murmur of voices fills the space, a soft hum of community as news of the hunt is shared and plans for the coming days are made. It is a scene of profound peace and contentment. The world outside may be immense and unforgiving, but here, in the sanctuary of the hearth, there is safety, nourishment, and belonging. As the community settles around the fire, their hunger satisfied, the day's excitement gives way to a quieter, more contemplative mood. The stories turn from the thrill of the hunt to older tales of the ancestors and the spirits of the world. And in the warm, flickering light, an elder woman rises. She is the keeper of a different kind of knowledge. She moves to a small niche in the rock wall and takes out a few special items: a hollowed-out piece of sandstone, a wad of dried moss, and a small pouch of rendered animal fat. She is preparing not for a journey out onto the steppe, but for one deep into the earth and into the heart of their beliefs. The elder carefully places the moss into the stone bowl, creating a wick. She then scoops in the thick white tallow, the rendered fat of a bear from a previous hunt. With a burning twig from the hearth, she touches the wick. It sputters for a moment, and then catches, blooming into a soft, steady, and smokeless light. This is the artist's light. The invention of the lamp was as crucial as the atlatau, a piece of technology that allowed our ancestors to conquer the absolute darkness of the deep caves and transform them into sacred canvases. Unlike a flickering, smoking torch, this small stone lamp provides a stable, long-lasting glow, a perfect tool for navigating the tight passages and for the detailed work that is about to begin. She beckons to a younger man, his hands already stained with the memory of red and black pigments. He gathers his own toolkit, small, smooth stones for palettes, lumps of red and yellow ochre, minerals rich in iron oxides that he has gathered from a special place far down the riverbed. He also has sticks of charcoal from the fire and a dark, heavy powder of manganese dioxide. These are the colors of his world. A small group follows the elder, leaving the warmth and chatter of the main shelter behind. They move towards the back of the cave, beyond the living areas, to where a narrow passage leads down into the deep, silent darkness. The transition is immediate. The air grows still and cool, and the familiar sounds of the camp fade away, replaced by a profound silence, broken only by the drip of water somewhere in the distance. The profound, absolute darkness presses in from all sides, held back only by the small, gentle pool of light cast by the tallow lamp. The air smells different here. It is the cool, damp scent of the deep cave, a smell of wet stone and ancient, undisturbed earth. They walk for what seems like a long time, their footsteps echoing softly in the narrow passage. Finally, the passage opens into a large, vaulted chamber. This place is special. It is far from the world of the living, a sacred space deep within the body of the earth. The elder holds the lamp high, and its light dances across the walls. The artist runs his hand over the cold rock face, feeling its surface. He is not looking for a blank space. He is looking for a shape, a contour, a natural bulge or crack in the limestone that suggests a form to him. He finds it, a swelling in the rock that perfectly evokes the powerful shoulder hump of a bison. Here, the work will begin. He takes a sharp piece of flint, and in the soft glow of the lamp, begins to etch the outline of the animal directly into the stone. His movements are confident and sure, demonstrating a sophisticated understanding of animal anatomy and perspective. This is not primitive doodling. It is a skillful and intentional practice, honed over a lifetime. Once the outline is engraved, he prepares his paints. He places a chunk of red ochre on a stone palette, and, with another smooth stone, begins to grind it. The soft, scraping sound is loud in the quiet chamber. He works until the mineral becomes a fine, deep red powder. He takes some of the powder into his palm and mixes it with saliva, creating a thick, vibrant paint. He does the same with the black charcoal. He now has his palette ready to bring the spirit of the bison to life on this wall. He might use his fingers to apply the thick paint, or perhaps a brush made from a chewed twig or a clump of animal hair. For other effects, he might use a hollowed reed, blowing the dry pigment onto a wet section of the wall, an early form of airbrush that creates soft, blended edges. In the flickering lamplight, as his stained hands move purposefully across the cold rock, the image begins to emerge, and the stone itself seems to stir with life. We stand with them now, in this sacred gallery, deep within the earth. The artist has finished his work, a magnificent red bison, its muscles powerfully rendered, its head lowered as if ready to charge. But it does not stand alone. As the elder moves the lamp, its light reveals a breathtaking panorama of animals covering the walls and ceiling. This is a spirit world brought forth from the rock. We are in a place like Chalvet Cave in France, with art reaching back 32,000 years, or Lascaux, or Altamira in Spain. These are the world's first great cathedrals. A magnificent herd of horses, painted in rich yellow ochre and outlined in black, seems to gallop across a wide expanse of the ceiling. We see aurochs, the giant wild ancestors of modern cattle, their horns rendered with incredible skill. There are mammoths, deer, and even a woolly rhino. The animals that sustain their lives are all here, captured not as simple figures, but with a deep, intimate knowledge of their essence, their movement, their spirit. In the moving, living light of the tallow lamp, the animals seem to flicker and breathe, their legs seeming to run across the undulating surface of the rock. It is a mesmerizing and deeply moving sight. But what does it all mean? Why did they descend into these deep, dangerous, and inaccessible places to create such masterpieces? We will never know for certain, but the clues they left behind invite us to wonder. One of the oldest ideas is the theory of hunting magic. Perhaps by painting these animals, by capturing their image, the artists were ensuring success in the hunt, creating a magical connection that would draw the real animals to their spears. Another powerful theory suggests that these caves were portals to the spirit world, and the art is a record of shamanistic journeys, perhaps in a state of trance, induced by the sensory deprivation of the deep cave. A shaman would see visions, and the paintings were a way to record and communicate with the spirits they encountered. This might explain why human figures are so rarely depicted, and when they are often abstract stick figures, or strange, half-human, half-animal beings, perhaps the shamans themselves, transformed. As we look closer, we see that the art is not just of animals. There are strange signs and symbols painted alongside them, patterns of red dots, straight lines, and shapes that look like weapons or huts. These symbols are found consistently across different caves, separated by thousands of years and hundreds of miles. This suggests a shared symbolic system, a kind of proto-writing whose meaning is now lost to us, but which was clearly understood by those who created it. The acoustics in this chamber are also remarkable. A soft voice, a gentle hum, echoes and resonates, amplified by the stone. It suggests that chanting, music, and storytelling may have been a vital part of the rituals performed here. We also notice that some paintings overlap with older, faded ones. This tells us that generations of people returned to this exact same sacred spot again and again to add their own contributions. Sometimes it seems the act of painting in this specific place was more important than the final, lasting image. It was a ritual, a prayer, a connection. Standing here, you can almost feel the cold, rough limestone wall under your fingertips, inches away from a 30,000-year-old painting. You are overcome with a sense of awe, a profound connection to these distant ancestors, in a place untouched by the passage of millennia. The deep, resonant silence of the cave amplifies the sacred feeling of the space, a silence that seems to hold the memory of every chant, every story, every prayer ever uttered within these walls. Emerging from the cave is like being reborn. We leave the cool, damp, silent world of the earth and step back into the living world of the night. The journey into the spiritual heart of the cave has prepared us for another spectacle, one of even greater scale and majesty. The air outside is sharp and biting, a clean, pristine cold, and the sky above is a sight we can barely imagine. With the complete absence of artificial light pollution, the night sky of the Ice Age was a treasure. The darkness is absolute, a pure, velvet black that makes the stars seem close enough to touch. They do not twinkle gently. They burn with a sharp, brilliant, diamond-like intensity, billions of them, and stretching across the entire expanse of the heavens is the Milky Way. Not as a faint, hazy band, but as a vivid, textured river of light, thick with dust clouds and glowing nebulae. And as we watch, another light begins to grow in the north. It is the silent, hypnotic dance of the aurora borealis. At the latitudes of these ancient European sites, the northern lights would have been a common and spectacular sight. Great curtains of pale green and ethereal purple light unfold across the heavens, shimmering and moving as if alive. It is a celestial display of overwhelming beauty, a divine spectacle that would have filled our ancestors with wonder. They would have known this sky intimately. There is compelling evidence that Paleolithic people possessed a sophisticated knowledge of astronomy. They would have noticed that the patterns of the stars were constant, reliable guides for direction and for marking the passage of time. They would have known that the sky we see is not the same as theirs. Due to the slow wobble of the Earth's axis, their North Star was not Polaris, but the brilliant star Vega. At sites like Lascaux, some researchers believe certain paintings align with major constellations, like the Summer Triangle, on pieces of bone and antler. Archaeologists have found intricate markings that appear to be lunar calendars, carefully tracking the phases of the moon. Under this cosmic light, the vast landscape sleeps. It is a world sculpted by the slow, immense power of glaciers, which carved out the deep valleys and left behind the massive, lonely boulders that dot the plains. The silence is profound, broken only by the sound of the wind moving through the dry grass, the distant call of a wolf, or the sharp crack of ice forming on a nearby stream. Looking up at the sky and then out at the frozen land below, one cannot help but feel both incredibly small and deeply connected to the vastness of the universe. It is a moment of pure, peaceful, and awe-inspiring reflection. Standing there under a sky untouched by modern light, you can't help but feel a powerful connection to these ancestors. What do you think they felt looking up at that same cosmic display? Let that feeling of wonder carry you as we move deeper into their world. As the deep and profound night settles over the frozen world, and the brilliant stars cast their cold, silent light upon the land, the life of the clan continues within the warm embrace of the shelter. The grand dramas of the hunt and the sacred mysteries of the painted cave now give way to the quieter, more intimate rhythms of daily life. It is here, in the gentle flow of these ordinary moments, that we can truly appreciate the depth of their ingenuity, the threads of innovation that were woven into the very fabric of their existence. The pace of our journey slows now, settling into a calm and soothing current as we explore the masterful crafts and deep bonds that made this world a home. By the steady, comforting glow of the central hearth, a man sits quietly, his attention completely absorbed by the task at hand. He is a master craftsman, a toolmaker, and he is practicing an art as ancient as humanity itself, the art of flint knapping. In his lap, he holds a large, smooth nodule of dark gray flint, a special stone that may have been quarried from a place many days' walk from here. Access to such high-quality material was vital, and these precious stones were often traded over vast distances, passed from one hand to another across the frozen steppe. He begins the work. In his right hand, he holds a hammerstone, a hard, rounded cobble of quartzite, its surface pitted from thousands of previous strikes. With a sharp, decisive motion, he strikes the edge of the flint core. The sound is a sharp, percussive crack that rings out for a moment before being absorbed by the soft hum of the shelter. A large, thick flake of stone falls away, This is the first step in a process known to archaeologists as lithic reduction, the methodical shaping of stone. The toolmaker is not striking at random. He is exploiting a fundamental property of the stone called conchoidal fracture. Like glass, flint breaks in a predictable, curved, shell-like pattern when struck correctly. He understands this property not through science, but through an intuitive, hands-on knowledge passed down through countless generations. He turns the core in his hands, examining the new surface, the fresh scar left by the blow. The dusty, mineral smell of freshly broken flint hangs in the air around him. His face, illuminated by the firelight, is a mask of intense concentration. His hands, strong and calloused, move with a practiced confidence that is mesmerizing to watch. He is preparing the core, using the hammerstone to create a specific shape and a flat surface, a striking platform for the next phase of his work. This sophisticated method, which we call the Levallois technique, allowed him to produce flakes of a predetermined size and shape, a revolutionary leap in the efficiency of toolmaking. He was not just hoping for a useful piece to break off. He was planning it. Now, he sets aside the hard hammerstone and picks up a different tool, a heavy, straight piece of reindeer antler. This softer implement will give him finer control. He places the tip of the antler against the edge of his prepared platform, and with a sharp push of his body weight, he detaches a long, thin, beautiful flake of flint. It falls onto the fur beside him, a perfect stone blade with an edge so sharp it seems to shimmer. He repeats this process again and again, turning the core, preparing the edge, and pressing off another perfect blade. From this single, carefully prepared core, he can produce dozens of sharp, useful tools. If this were a piece of obsidian, a volcanic glass also used for tools, the edge of these flakes would be many times sharper than a modern steel scalpel, capable of slicing with microscopic precision. His work is not yet done. He now has a collection of raw blades, the building blocks for a whole suite of specialized tools, a true Swiss Army knife of stone. He picks up one of the blades and another, smaller piece of antler. Now he begins the delicate process of pressure flaking, pressing the antler tip against the blade's edge to push off tiny, rice-sized flakes. With this meticulous work, he can shape the blade for a specific purpose. He might create a burin, a blade with a tough, chisel-like point, perfect for engraving intricate designs into bone or ivory. He might fashion an end scraper, a tool with a durable, rounded edge designed for the long, hard work of cleaning animal hides. Or he might create the deadliest tool of all, a spear point, perfectly shaped for balance and penetration, ready to be hafted onto a wooden shaft. He holds up the finished point. It is cool and smooth in his hand, perfectly balanced, its edges impossibly sharp. It is a work of art, a testament to a highly complex craft that was taught, learned, and perfected over a lifetime. This single object, born from a simple stone, is the foundation of their technology, the tool that allows them to hunt, to butcher, to build, and to create. This quiet, methodical process is the very bedrock of their survival. The creation of these precise tools was not an end in itself. Their purpose was to enable other, equally revolutionary innovations. Our journey now takes us from the sharp crack of the flint-knapper S-strike to a different corner of the shelter, a place filled with the soft, rhythmic sounds of a different kind of creation. Here, a group of women sit together, their heads bowed in concentration, their hands busy with prepared hides and slender, polished needles. We are about to witness one of the most important inventions in human history, an innovation as significant as the Atlatl for our species' ability to conquer the globe. We are watching the tailor's secret unfold. One woman works on the great hide of the steppe bison, brought back by the hunters. It has been scraped clean of all flesh and fat with a stone scraper, and is now being softened by rubbing it with animal brains and working it by hand until it is pliable. The rich, smoky smell of hides tanned over a low fire hangs in the air, a scent that speaks of warmth and protection. Another woman is working with a much softer material, the pelts of several Arctic hares, their white fur like newly fallen snow. She is creating a lining. In her hand, she holds the key to it all, a tiny, delicate needle carved from bone, with a small, perfectly drilled hole in one end. The earliest known eyed needles like this date back at least 60,000 years, a hallmark of the unique ingenuity of our species, Homo sapiens. Before this simple tool, hides were likely just draped over the body or crudely fastened, but the needle changed everything. It allowed for the creation of fitted, sewn garments that could be layered to provide incredible insulation. It was this technology that allowed humans to thrive in the extreme cold of the Ice Age. The woman takes up a bone, all tool with a sharp point, and punches a series of small, neat holes along the edge of the bison hide. She then threads a tough, durable strand of dried animal sinew through the eye of her needle. With practiced ease, her slender, polished needle weaves in and out of the tough leather, stitching the hare fur lining to the bison hide outer shell. She is creating not just a piece of clothing, but a sophisticated piece of survival technology. Clothing was made in layers, trapping air for insulation, a principle we still use in our most advanced winter gear. An outer layer of tough, waterproof hide would protect against the wind and snow, while inner layers of soft fur would provide a cocoon of warmth. We know they created a wide array of garments. Small, carved figurines from this era, the famous Venus statuettes, sometimes show remarkable details of their clothing, woven hats, intricate belts, and even string skirts. They created tailored parkas with fur-lined hoods, mittens to protect their hands, and warm, durable boots to guard their feet against the frozen ground. We can see the echoes of this ancient complexity in the preserved clothing of later figures like Otzi, the Iceman, whose gear was an intricate assembly of different leathers, furs, and grasses. But this clothing was not purely functional. In the quiet, focused atmosphere of this sewing circle, we see another woman stitching a decorative border onto a child's tunic. She is using a thread to attach dozens of tiny, polished beads made from seashells that must have been traded from a coastline hundreds of miles away. Other items might be decorated with the teeth of a fox or an intricate pattern of ivory beads. This desire for personal adornment, for beauty and self-expression, shows us that these were people with a rich sense of identity and culture. As one woman finishes a small boot and runs her hand over the incredible warmth and softness of its rabbit fur lining, we understand that this quiet, peaceful work is as crucial to their life as the dramatic hunt. It is the art of creating comfort, of turning the skins of the great beasts into a second skin for humanity. As we appreciate the incredible warmth offered by their tailored clothing, our gaze naturally turns outward from the protection of the individual to the protection of the community. We step away from the firelight of the rock shelter, out into the cold, clear air. And here, standing starkly on the open plain, we see an even more astonishing feat of engineering, a testament to their ability to create shelter and permanence in a landscape where trees were scarce. We are looking at a home built from the bones of giants. Before us stands a large, circular dwelling constructed almost entirely from the remains of woolly mammoths. It is an awe-inspiring sight. Incredible examples of these structures have been excavated by archaeologists in places like Mazirik, in modern-day Ukraine, some dating back 15,000 years. They are a powerful symbol of human adaptability. The foundation of the hut is a circle of massive, interlocking mammoth skulls, their empty eye sockets gazing out at the steppe. The lower jaws, heavy and solid, are placed strategically to create a stable base. From this foundation, a conical framework rises, a lattice of long leg bones, ribs, and shoulder blades, all carefully fitted together. Soaring over the top, forming the great arches of the roof, are the magnificent, curving tusks of the mammoths, their tips meeting at the center to create a high, vaulted ceiling. The entire structure is covered with thick, overlapping animal hides, carefully stitched together and stretched taut over the bone frame, creating a weatherproof and incredibly well-insulated home. These were not small, temporary huts. Some were up to 26 feet in diameter, large enough to house multiple families. Building such a home would have been a massive, collaborative community project, taking weeks or even months of hard labor. The bones themselves were likely not from mammoths they had hunted. Instead, they were probably scavenged from natural mammoth graveyards, places where herds had died over many centuries, leaving behind a treasure trove of building materials. We step through a low doorway, framed by two huge tusks. Inside, the atmosphere is muffled and quiet, a sanctuary insulated from the constant howl of the wind outside. A central hearth glows with a warm fire, its smoke rising lazily through a small opening left at the very peak of the tusk-framed roof. The space is organized with sleeping platforms covered in furs, and distinct areas for working on tools or preparing food. The feeling inside is one of incredible security and permanence. We can see that one of the mammoth skulls near the entrance has been painted with patterns of red ochre, suggesting that these homes were not just functional shelters, but places of symbolic and spiritual importance. This was architecture born of the Ice Age itself, using the remains of the steppe's greatest giant to create a warm, sturdy, and lasting home for its most intelligent inhabitants. We have now seen their masterful tools, their innovative clothing, and their incredible homes. We have witnessed their ingenuity in stone, hide, and bone. But the story of their success is not complete without understanding the invisible threads that held their world together. For our final moments with them, we return to the fire to focus not on the things they made, but on the people they were. We now explore the greatest innovation of all, their rich and compassionate human culture. As we sit in the warm glow of the hearth, we observe the gentle, everyday interactions of the clan. An elderly woman, her face a beautiful map of wrinkles, sits with a group of wide-eyed children. Her hands are no longer strong enough for the hard work of preparing hides, but her mind is a library of stories, knowledge, and traditions. She plays a crucial role in the survival of her people, caring for the young ones and passing on the wisdom of generations. This is the grandmother hypothesis in action, the idea that older, non-reproductive members of the group were vital for our species' success. We see evidence of this deep caring, not just in theory, but in the fossil record itself. In graves across ancient Europe, the remains of individuals have been found who had survived for years with debilitating injuries. People with withered arms, crippling arthritis, or who had lost all their teeth. These individuals could not have survived alone. They were fed, protected, and cared for by their group. This is perhaps the earliest, most profound evidence of compassion, of a social bond that transcended simple utility. A young mother smiles as she adjusts the soft fur hood on her child's head, her gesture filled with a timeless and universal love. A group of men sit together, mending their hunting gear, their shared laughter erupting as one of them tells a funny story. This is the sound of community. The warmth you feel is not just from the fire. It is the comfort of sitting shoulder to shoulder with your kin, the deep and abiding security of belonging. Their lives required intense cooperation and sophisticated social rules to manage relationships and ensure everyone worked together for the common good. Suddenly, a new sound drifts through the shelter. It is a hauntingly beautiful melody, a series of clear, fluted notes played on a small pipe. One of the clan members is playing a flute carved from the wing bone of a vulture. Archaeologists have found such instruments dating back more than 35,000 years, capable of playing complex tunes. This music tells us that their world was not one of constant, grim survival. It was a world filled with art, with beauty, and with song. And when a life came to an end, it was mourned with a depth of feeling that is staggering to contemplate. We know this from their deliberate, ritualistic burials. They did not just dispose of their dead, they laid them to rest with care, often placing them in a sleeping position, covering them in red ochre, and burying them with precious grave goods. At a site called Sunjir in Russia, archaeologists found the incredible burial of two children, a boy and a girl, laid head to it. Their bodies were covered with more than 10,000 meticulously carved ivory beads that must have represented years of work. They were buried with straightened mammoth tusk spears, carved animal figures, and other valuable objects. The scene speaks of a profound, heartbreaking grief and a deep love, showing that these children were cherished by a community that believed their spirits deserved to be honored on a journey to another world. And so, our journey through the heart of the Ice Age comes to a gentle close. We've walked the frozen steppe, witnessed the fire of creation in a deep cave, and felt the warmth of a home built from the bones of giants. But more than anything, we've seen that this wasn't just a story of survival. It was the story of us, the birth of art, of community, of ingenuity, and of the deep human connections that still define us today. They are not a distant, primitive people. They are the architects of our own world, and their legacy lives on, not just in stone and bone, but in our own DNA. I hope you've enjoyed this journey back in time. As we let this part of our story rest, perhaps take a moment to think about the legacy they left within you. I'd love to hear what part of their story connected with you the most. And now, our journey draws to a gentle close. The echoes of our ancestors fade into the soft whispers of the wind. We are left alone in the vast, quiet landscape of a world long since vanished. Let us drift for a while in this peaceful dream and meet the other magnificent souls who walked this ancient earth. Let the mind settle and the breathing slow as we turn our gaze to the silent giants of the plains. There, In the pale light of a low-hanging sun, a herd is moving. They are mountains of deep brown and rust-colored fur, walking in a slow and ponderous procession across the endless steppe. These are the woolly mammoths. Their passage is marked not by a thunderous sound, but by a deep and nearly silent pressure on the frozen ground. Their massive feet, padded and wide, make only the softest crunching noise in the snow, a sound absorbed almost instantly by the immense quiet of the Ice Age world. With each deliberate step, the long, shaggy hair on their backs and flanks sways in a gentle, hypnotic rhythm. Like curtains of grass touched by a passing breeze, they move as one. A family, a river of life flowing through a silent land. These creatures were immense, yet familiar. They were about the same size as a modern African elephant, a comforting thought in this strange landscape. But their shape was entirely their own, sculpted by the relentless cold. They had a high, domed head and a distinctive sloping back that descended from their powerful shoulders. Their ears were small and rounded, a clever adaptation to conserve precious body heat in the biting winds. Every part of them was designed for survival in a world of ice. Their most famous feature, of course, was their magnificent coat. This was not a single layer of fur, but a complex, two-part system of insulation. An outer layer of long, coarse guard hairs, some reaching over 3 feet in length, acted as a protective shield against snow and moisture. Beneath this, a soft, dense, and woolly undercoat trapped a layer of warm air directly against their skin, a natural blanket of incredible efficiency. And then there were the tusks. They rose from their jaws in a spectacular double curve, growing throughout their long lives until they could reach 16 feet in length. These were not simply weapons. They were magnificent, multi-purpose tools essential to their existence. We see them in action now as the herd stops in a shallow drift of snow. The great matriarch, the old and experienced female who leads her family, lowers her head. With a graceful, sweeping motion of her colossal tusks, she pushes aside the dry, powdery snow. The movement is effortless, practiced, revealing the frozen, dormant grasses beneath. She and her family were herbivores, peaceful grazers who required vast quantities of food to sustain their massive bodies. Their tusks were their key to unlocking the frozen pantry of the steppe. They were also used for defense, a formidable barrier against any predator brave enough to challenge them. And for the males, they were a symbol of strength and vitality, used to attract mates in timeless rituals of display. The herd itself is a portrait of gentle social order. Like their modern elephant cousins, they lived in matriarchal groups. The leader was not the strongest, but the wisest. An older female whose memory held the maps of ancient migration routes, the locations of sheltered valleys, and the best foraging grounds. She guides her daughters, her sisters, and their young with a quiet authority, born of experience. Look closely, and you can see a tiny mammoth, a calf, tucked safely between its mother's powerful legs. It walks in her shadow, protected from the wind and from any unseen dangers, learning the ways of the world through her patient example. This peaceful, ordered existence is the true nature of these iconic beasts. Our knowledge of them is not just guesswork or fantasy. It is a gift from the ice itself. In the frozen soils of Siberia, perfectly preserved mammoths have been discovered, time capsules from a lost world. Perhaps the most famous is a baby mammoth named Luba, found by a reindeer herder in 2007. She was so complete that she still had milk in her stomach, and her eyelashes were intact. From her, and others like her, we have learned incredible details about their biology. We know that their blood contained a special type of hemoglobin. This unique protein was remarkably resistant to cold, allowing it to deliver life-giving oxygen to their tissues, even when their body temperatures were near freezing. It was an invisible adaptation, a secret to life, hidden in their very veins. Their teeth were another marvel of evolution. They were not individual molars, but a series of ridged enamel plates fused together, creating a perfect surface for grinding tough, fibrous grasses. As one set of teeth wore down from the abrasive diet, another would slowly move forward in the jaw to replace it. This process could happen up to 6 times during their lifetime, ensuring they could continue to eat efficiently even into old age. This intimate knowledge allows us to see them not as mythical creatures, but as living, breathing animals, perfectly suited to their environment. Across the vastness of the steppe, they communicated, not just with trumpeting calls, but with deep, low-frequency rumbles that vibrated through the ground. These sounds, too low for a human ear to hear, could travel for miles across the open plains. It was a hidden language, a way for scattered herds to stay in contact, to warn of danger, or to find each other in the immense, empty landscapes. It was the slow, resonant heartbeat of their world. For tens of thousands of years, this was their kingdom. But even for them, the world was changing. As the great ice sheets began to melt, their world of cold grass began to shrink. Most populations vanished around 10,000 years ago. Yet, a small, isolated group found refuge on a remote Arctic outpost called Wrangel Island. There, separated from the rest of the world by rising seas, the last woolly mammoths survived until about 4,000 years ago. They lived on as living relics while pyramids were being built in Egypt, a final, lonely echo of a bygone era. As we watch this peaceful herd, their great forms moving with a serene and timeless grace, a deep sense of calm settles over us. They are a symbol of majestic endurance, gentle giants in a world of profound silence. From the gentle giant of the plains, our dreamlike gaze now drifts, shifting to another form, another power. Our focus narrows to a predator that shared this world, a creature of quiet strength and elusive grace, the saber-toothed cat. The afternoon sun is warm on the high plains. In a patch of tall golden grass, a creature is resting. It is not the ferocious monster of our imagination, but a being of immense and quiet power, completely at ease in its domain. This is Smilodon, the saber-toothed cat. We observe it not in the heat of a hunt, but in a moment of pure, meditative stillness. Its powerful muscles, coiled beneath a thick, patterned coat, are relaxed. Its head rests on its paws, and its most famous features, the immense canine teeth, are mostly hidden from view. It is a portrait of calm confidence, the undisputed apex predator of its time. It is important to understand what this animal was. It was not a tiger. It did not belong to the lineage of any cat alive today. It was part of a separate, now extinct subfamily known as the Machaerodontine, a unique and highly successful branch of the feline family tree. Its very build tells a different story from that of modern big cats. It was incredibly powerful and stocky, built more like a small bear than a lion. Its limbs were thick and heavy-boned, its neck immensely muscular. This was not an animal designed for long, fast chases. Its short tail confirms this. It could not use a long tail for balance during a high-speed pursuit. Instead, its entire body was engineered for ambush and overwhelming power. It was a master of the surprise attack, designed to wrestle large, slow-moving prey like bison, camels, and young mammoths to the ground. And then there were the teeth. Those iconic sabers could grow up to 11 inches long. They were curved like blades and serrated on their edges. But for all their fearsome appearance, they were surprisingly brittle. They were not used for slashing or tearing through bone. Instead, they were precision instruments for a very specific kind of killing bite. To use them, Smilodon had to first completely subdue its prey, pinning it to the ground with its immense forelimb and body strength. Only then could it deliver the final, fatal bite. To accommodate these incredible teeth, its jaws had a truly astonishing adaptation. They could open to an angle of 120 degrees, almost twice as wide as a modern lion. This incredible gape was necessary to move the lower jaw completely out of the way, allowing the sabers to sink deep into the soft throat or belly of its victim. Much of what we know about this incredible cat comes from a remarkable place in modern-day Los Angeles, the La Brea tar pits. For tens of thousands of years, natural asphalt seeped to the surface, creating sticky pools that trapped countless Ice Age animals. Predators, like Smilodon, would be drawn to the struggling cries of a trapped herbivore, only to become ensnared themselves. Thousands of their skeletons have been recovered from these pits, giving us an unparalleled window into their lives. The fossils tell fascinating stories. Many Smilodon bones show evidence of severe but healed injuries, such as broken legs or damaged hips. An animal with such an injury would have been unable to hunt for itself. The fact that they survived suggests that they may have lived in social groups or prides, much like modern lions. Perhaps their pride mates brought them food and protected them while they recovered. It paints a picture not of a solitary monster, but of a complex social animal. Let us imagine its coat. While we can never know for certain, its ambush hunting style suggests it would have needed camouflage. Perhaps it had a spotted or dappled pattern, allowing it to blend seamlessly with the tall grasses and the shifting light and shadow of the open woodlands. We can almost see the powerful muscles rippling under that thick, patterned fur as it stretches languidly in the sun. As it rests, a deep, low, rumbling purr might vibrate through its massive chest, a sound of pure contentment. The afternoon light catches the polished tip of one of its dormant sabers, a glint of ivory against the gold of its fur. When it eventually rises to move, it leaves behind heavy paw prints in the soft earth, a quiet testament to its powerful passage. Its eyes, intelligent and amber-colored, scan the horizon with a calm, predatory focus, assessing its world with an ancient, unwavering confidence. For millions of years, Smilodon was a fantastically successful predator, ranging across both North and South America. It was not an agent of chaos, but a vital part of a complex and balanced ecosystem, ensuring the health of herbivore populations. Its reign, however, was tied directly to the fate of its prey. When the climate changed and the large, slow-moving animals it specialized in hunting began to disappear, the saber-toothed cat disappeared with them. It was too specialized, its entire being too perfectly adapted to a world that was vanishing forever. As we observe this magnificent creature in its moment of peace, we feel a sense of profound respect. It was a masterpiece of evolution, a being of immense power and quiet grace. The image of the powerful cat begins to fade, and our attention is drawn to other giants of this lost world. to the deep, silent caves and the misty, wooded valleys. We seek out the immense cave bear and the majestic Irish elk. Our peaceful exploration takes us now into the deep quiet of the earth. We find ourselves at the mouth of a dark cave, a place of profound stillness and ancient memory. Inside, in the cool, echoing silence, a colossal form is sleeping. This is the domain of the cave bear, Ursus spellus. The only sound is the slow, deep, rhythmic breath of the hibernating giant, a soft, powerful exhalation that seems to make the very air vibrate. The bear is enormous, far larger than a modern grizzly. A large male could weigh over 2,000 pounds, a true titan of the Ice Age. For centuries, these great bears used caves like this one across Europe as their winter dens. Generation after generation would return to the same sacred darkness to wait out the harshest months of the year. The earthy, damp smell of the cave floor hangs in the air, a scent of rock and soil and the dust of millennia. Vast collections of their bones have been found in caverns just like this one, telling the story of countless bears who entered their long winter sleep and, for whatever reason, never woke up. Looking at its massive skull and powerful frame, you would assume it was a fearsome carnivore. Yet, the evidence tells a different story. Detailed analysis of the wear patterns on their fossilized teeth reveals that their diet was in fact primarily vegetarian. They were gentle giants, foraging on roots, berries, and grasses during the warmer months, building up the immense fat reserves needed to survive the long hibernation. They were not always alone in these caves. Early humans and their Neanderthal relatives also sought shelter in these natural fortresses. There must have been moments of competition, a tense relationship between the two-legged newcomers and the ancient ursine masters of the caves. But there is also evidence of something more profound, perhaps a sense of reverence. In some caves, archaeologists have discovered what appear to be ritualistic arrangements of cave bear skulls, placed in stone chests or on natural rock altars. Did our ancient ancestors worship these immense creatures, seeing them as powerful spirits of the earth? We can only wonder at the deep spiritual connection that may have existed in this shared subterranean world. Leaving the deep slumber of the cave bear behind, our consciousness drifts upwards, back into the soft morning light. We find ourselves in a misty, wooded valley. The air is cool and damp, and the world is painted in shades of green and gray. Through the swirling mist, a truly breathtaking sight emerges. A small herd is grazing peacefully in a quiet meadow. They are deer, but unlike any deer alive today. This is the Irish elk, Megaloceros giganteus. Its name is a misnomer, for it was not an elk, and it was not confined to Ireland. It was, in fact, the largest deer that ever lived, and it roamed the open woodlands and parklands all the way from Ireland to Siberia. What commands our attention, what seems almost impossible, are its antlers. They are the largest of any known deer in the history of the world. From tip to tip, they could span an astonishing 12 feet, and the bony structures themselves weighed nearly 90 pounds. They were not sharp, pointed weapons for everyday fighting. They were broad and palmated, shaped like the palms of giant hands, more like two ancient gnarled trees growing from the animal's head. We can see them now, catching the soft droplets of the morning mist, glistening in the pale light. These magnificent antlers were grown and shed every single year, an incredible biological expense. Their primary purpose was likely for display, a way for males to impress females and intimidate rivals during the mating season. A larger, more symmetrical set of antlers was a clear, honest signal of a male's health and strength. We can hear the gentle sound of them grazing, the soft tearing of wet grass in the quiet meadow. They were grazers, their bodies adapted to feeding on the grasses and herbs of the open parklands they called home. They move with a surprising grace for such large animals, their immense antlers held high as they navigate through a grove of ancient birch trees. Their peaceful existence, however, was fragile. Their survival was tied to their very specific habitat. As the Ice Age ended and the climate grew warmer and wetter, dense forests began to replace the open parklands. This changing landscape was difficult for a creature with such enormous antlers to navigate. Furthermore, the immense mineral requirements needed to grow those antlers each year put a huge strain on their bodies. As their preferred food sources and the mineral-rich soils declined, the Irish elk simply could not sustain itself. Its greatest evolutionary feature became its greatest liability. As we watch this tranquil scene, the great deer moving like ghosts through the mist, we feel a sense of profound wonder. This world was populated by creatures that test the limits of our imagination. The sleeping bear in its dark cave, the giant deer with its crown of bones. They were all part of a rich and vibrant tapestry of life. Our tours of this lost world of giants now concludes, as our attention turns to the slow, gentle, and inevitable force that brought it all to an end. We now witness the melting of the great glaciers and the final, quiet warming of the world. The age of giants is ending, not with a bang, but with a whisper. It begins with a sound, the gentle, trickling music of melting ice. A single drop of water, released from its frozen prison of 10,000 years, slides down the face of a colossal glacier. It is joined by another, and then another, until a tiny stream is born. This stream grows into a river, and that river flows into a vast new lake. This is the Great Thaw, the end of the last major glacial period, a process that began around 20,000 years ago. The world is slowly, inexorably beginning to warm. This profound change was not random. It was driven by the silent, cosmic clockwork of our solar system. Slow, predictable changes in the Earth's orbit and tilt, known as Milankovitch cycles, altered the amount of solar radiation reaching the planet's surface. A little more warmth each summer, a little less ice each winter. Over millennia, this subtle shift was enough to reverse the Great Freezing and begin the long process of deglaciation. The great ice sheets, which had covered vast portions of North America and Eurasia in a blanket of white, 2 miles thick, began to retreat. Their edges frayed, and their immense mass began to shrink. As the glaciers melted, they released unimaginable quantities of water into the world's oceans. Global sea levels rose dramatically by hundreds of feet. Coastlines were redrawn. Low-lying coastal areas were flooded, and great land bridges that had connected continents for millennia were submerged. Beringia, the land bridge between Asia and North America, disappeared beneath the waves, isolating the wildlife and the first peoples of the Americas. The land itself began to stir. The unimaginable weight of the ice sheets had actually depressed the Earth's crust, pushing it down into the mantle below. As that weight was lifted, the land began to slowly rebound. It was as if the planet itself was breathing a slow, deep sigh of relief. This process, known as post-glacial rebound, is so slow and so powerful that it is still happening today in places like Scandinavia and Hudson Bay. the world's ecosystems were transformed. The vast, cold, dry grassland known as the Mammoth Steppe, which had stretched across the northern hemisphere, began to disappear. The climate became warmer and wetter. This allowed new kinds of vegetation to thrive. The first green shoots of new grasses and saplings began to emerge from the thawing soil. Dense forests of hardy pine and birch began to spread, followed eventually by oak and other broadleaf trees. The very smell of the world changed. The dry, dusty scent of the glacial peak was replaced by the rich, earthy smell of damp soil and new plant life. It was the scent of spring, happening on a global scale. This environmental shift was the primary driver of the megafauna extinction. The great giants like the mammoth, the woolly rhino, and the Irish elk were specialists. They were perfectly adapted to the cold, open steppe. They could not adapt to the new forest habitats. Their food sources vanished, replaced by vegetation they could not easily digest. The world they knew, the world that had sustained them for so long, was quite literally disappearing from beneath their feet. The meltwater from the retreating glaciers created new and spectacular features on the landscape. Massive proglacial lakes formed at the edges of the ice sheets. Some of these, like Lake Agassiz in North America, were larger than all of the modern Great Lakes combined. They were vast inland seas of cold, fresh water, temporary monuments to the immense scale of the melting. The end of the Ice Age was not a smooth, linear process. It was punctuated by abrupt, sometimes violent climate shifts. There were periods of rapid warming, followed by sudden returns to near glacial conditions, like the Younger Dryas Cold period, a final 1,000-year-long winter before the final thaw. But the overall trend was undeniable. The world was moving towards a new state. A new, warmer, and more stable climate was being born. This new epoch, our epoch, is called the Holocene. It was this stability that allowed our human ancestors to develop agriculture, to build settlements, and to lay the foundations for civilization. The world we live in today, with its familiar coastlines, its forests, and its climate, is a direct result of the end of that last great ice age. And so, the world of ice slowly gives way to a world of water and green. A great and majestic chapter in our planet's history comes to a peaceful close. The echoes of these giants fade into the quiet soil, leaving only their memory for us to find. As this lost world settles into a deep and lasting slumber, perhaps you can feel yourself drifting with it into a place of quiet and rest. The great thaw has settled into a gentle, lasting warmth. The world of our ancestors, with its giants of ice and fur, has faded into the deep soil of memory. And now our long journey through time brings us back from the vast plains and the silent, painted caves. We return to the warmth of the shelter, to the soft glow of a dying fire, for one final, peaceful reflection. Let us settle in this quiet space and listen closely, for in the stillness we can almost hear the very first song our people ever sang. In the deep quiet of the shelter, a new sound emerges. It is not the crackle of the fire, nor the whisper of the wind outside. It is a pure, hauntingly beautiful melody, flowing from a simple instrument held in human hands. It is the sound of a flute. This is a meditation on the birth of music, a sound that transformed the human experience forever. The first notes of our species' long and beautiful symphony. For tens of thousands of years before this moment, the world was filled only with the sounds of nature, the rumble of thunder, the call of a bird, the rush of a river. Human-made music would have been a profound, almost magical experience, a new layer of meaning laid over the ancient soundscape of the world. The instruments they played were born from the world around them. The oldest confirmed musical instrument ever found is a flute discovered in a cave in Slovenia called desolate. It was crafted with care from the femur of a cave bear, a creature of immense power and spiritual significance. While it is often associated with Neanderthals, it marks the dawn of a revolutionary idea. The understanding that a bone, once home to marrow and life, could be given a new voice, a new purpose, that it could be used to create something of pure, abstract beauty. This was a monumental leap of the imagination, a moment when our ancestors began to shape not just the physical world, but the world of sound and emotion as well. And this was not an isolated discovery. In the caves of Germany, archaeologists have found a small collection of flutes dating back 35 to 40,000 years. These were made by our own species, Homo sapiens. Some were carved from the hollow, lightweight bones of a griffin vulture, a creature that soared high above the world. Others were painstakingly crafted from the dense, creamy ivory of a mammoth's tusk. These were not simple whistles, capable of only a single tone. They were sophisticated instruments, with carefully drilled finger holes that allowed the musician to play different notes, to create scales, and to weave complex, enchanting melodies. Incredibly, analysis of these ancient flutes suggests that some were capable of playing a diatonic scale. This is the familiar do-re-mi scale that forms the foundation of so much Western music. It is a sound that feels inherently natural and resolved to our ears. The idea that this sophisticated understanding of harmony existed so long ago is astonishing. It tells us that our ancestors had a deep, intuitive grasp of the mathematical beauty of music. As the musician plays, their eyes might be closed, lost in the feeling of the melody they are creating. A foot might tap gently on the earthen floor, keeping a simple, peaceful rhythm that others could follow. Music was a communal experience. Of course, the flute was likely not the only instrument. We can imagine other sounds filling the air. Perhaps the low, mystical worry sound of a bull roar, a simple piece of wood or bone swung on a long cord, its drone used in rituals to summon spirits or represent the voice of an ancestor. There would have been percussion instruments, the rhythmic pulse that is the heartbeat of all music. Rattles made from dried gourds filled with seeds, or perhaps the rhythmic clapping of hands. Drums made from animal hides stretched taut over a wooden frame would have provided a powerful, grounding beat, a sound that could unite a group in a trance-like dance or a solemn ceremony. Music likely played a central role in their lives. It was a tool for social bonding, a way to bring the small, close-knit group together after a long day. It was a medium for storytelling, with melodies rising and falling to match the drama of a great hunt or a creation myth. And it was almost certainly a key component of their spiritual rituals, a way to connect with the unseen world, to honor the spirits of the animals, and to mark the great passages of life, birth, and death. It may have even co-evolved with language itself, both systems using rhythm, pitch, and tone to convey complex emotions and meaning, long before a single word was ever written down. After the last, perfect note of the flute has faded away, there is a moment of deep, shared silence. In that quiet, there is a feeling of peace, of profound emotional connection, a testament to the timeless power of a simple melody. The abstract beauty of their music now leads us to consider another form of their art, a type of portable, symbolic creation that they could hold in their hands. The mysterious and fascinating Venus figurines. Our gentle focus now shifts from the world of sound to the world of touch. The music fades, and in the soft firelight, we see a small object resting in the palm of a hand. It is cool and smooth, its weight a comforting presence. It is a small, hand-carved statue of a female form, a type of artifact known as a Venus figurine. These enigmatic statuettes are one of the most widespread and enduring art forms of the Upper Paleolithic. Hundreds have been found, scattered across a vast geographical area, from the shores of the Atlantic in France all the way to the frozen plains of Siberia. They are a silent, powerful link to the beliefs and values of these ancient people. They were crafted from a wide variety of materials, reflecting the resources of the local environment. Some were carved from soft stones, like limestone or steatite. Others were shaped from bone, or from the precious, hard-won ivory of a mammoth's tusk. In one remarkable discovery, some were found to have been molded from a mixture of clay and powdered bone, and then fired in a primitive kiln, making them among the very first examples of ceramic technology in the world. They were objects of value, requiring time, skill, and precious materials to create. Perhaps the most famous example is the Venus of Willendorf, discovered in Austria and dating back about 30,000 years. She is carved from a porous limestone and was originally painted with red ochre. Like most of these figurines, she shares a set of common characteristics. The breasts, the hips, the belly, and the vulva are all heavily exaggerated and emphasized. In contrast, the arms and feet are often small, unfinished, or absent altogether. Most strikingly, the faces are typically indistinct, often showing no features at all, or covered by what appears to be a woven hat or an elaborate hairstyle. What did they mean? What was their purpose? This is a gentle mystery that has captivated archaeologists for over a century. One of the most enduring theories is that they were fertility symbols. In the harsh reality of the Ice Age, the survival of the tribe was paramount. A healthy birth was a miracle, and the fertility of women was the source of all future life. These figurines may have been goddesses or sacred charms, held and revered as a prayer for successful births, for the health of mothers and children, and for the continuity of the community. They were a celebration of the profound power of the female body. A more recent and intimate theory suggests that they may have been female self-portraits. Imagine a woman, perhaps pregnant, looking down at her own body. From that perspective, her own breasts and belly would dominate her field of view, while her feet would be hidden. The lack of a face makes sense in this context, as one cannot see one's own face without a reflection. This idea transforms them from abstract idols into deeply personal objects, a woman's own representation of her physical experience of life, an intimate and personal art form. Another possibility is that they served as teaching tools, as obstetric aids. Perhaps an older, experienced woman would use one of these figurines to instruct a younger woman about the stages of pregnancy, the process of childbirth, or the changes her body would undergo. They could have been part of a sacred tradition of women's knowledge, passed down through generations, ensuring that this vital information was preserved and understood. Their wide distribution also tells a fascinating story. The fact that very similar figurines were being made in France and in Siberia suggests a shared system of beliefs and cultural symbols that connected disparate groups across a vast continent. They were part of a common language of art and meaning. The oldest undisputed depiction of a human being is one of these figures, the Venus of Hohlfels from Germany, dating back at least 35,000 years. Unlike the grand public statements of the cave paintings, fixed to a single sacred spot, these figurines were personal and portable. They were meant to be held, to be carried on the long nomadic journeys, to be kept close in a pouch or pocket. The firelight catches the curved, polished surfaces of the small statue. It rests in the hand, a silent, mysterious presence, a secret of the human heart, held safely for millennia. From the physical legacy they held in their hands, we drift now to the invisible legacy they passed on through generations, the ancient echoes that still live within our own bodies today. We turn our attention inward now into the quiet, internal landscape of our own being, for the Ice Age never truly left us. Its challenges, its environment, and its long, slow rhythm are all encoded in the very fabric of our biology. We carry its legacy within our DNA. This is the genetic echo, a deep and unbroken connection to the lives of our distant ancestors. Let us consider this inheritance with a sense of calm and quiet wonder. The modern science of ancient DNA has opened a breathtaking window into the past, allowing us to read the genetic stories of people who lived tens of thousands of years ago. It reveals a complex tapestry of migration, adaptation, and connection. One of the most profound discoveries is that all non-African humans today carry a small but significant percentage of Neanderthal DNA. This is the result of our Homo sapiens ancestors meeting and interbreeding with their Neanderthal cousins as they moved out of Africa and into Eurasia. This was not a replacement, but a merging of ancient human lineages. And this inherited DNA was not just random genetic noise. Some of the genes we received from them are related to our immune system. The Neanderthals had lived in Eurasia for hundreds of thousands of years, and their bodies had adapted to fight off the local viruses and bacteria. By interbreeding with them, our ancestors received a vital immunological toolkit, a genetic shortcut that helped them survive in a new land. Our bodies also carry the genetic memory of the Ice Age diet, a world of feast and famine. Genes associated with fat metabolism, which would have been incredibly advantageous for surviving long periods of scarcity and intense cold, are still a part of our gene pool. The ability to efficiently store energy as fat was a key survival trait in a world where the next meal was never guaranteed. In our modern world of abundance, this ancient adaptation can sometimes cause problems, but its origin lies in the simple, stark necessity of survival. As our ancestors moved into the northern latitudes, their bodies had to adapt to a world with far less sunlight. One of the most visible adaptations was the evolution of lighter skin pigmentation. This change allowed for more efficient synthesis of vitamin D from the lower levels of UV light, a crucial process for bone health and immune function. Our bodies were learning to read a new sky, to draw sustenance from a weaker sun. We carry this adaptation with us today. Even our psychological responses have an ancient origin. The human body's fight or flight stress response, the rush of adrenaline that prepares us for immediate action, was perfectly adapted for a world with real physical dangers. A sudden encounter with a cave lion, the charge of a woolly rhino, in those moments, it was life-saving. In our modern world, where stresses are often chronic and abstract, this ancient survival circuit can be a source of anxiety, an echo of a danger that has long since passed. Ultimately, the human brain itself, with its remarkable capacity for long-term planning, deep social cooperation, and rich symbolic thought, was the ultimate adaptation. It was this powerful, creative mind that allowed our ancestors to navigate the immense challenges of the Ice Age, to create tools, to build communities, and to imagine a future. Even our most basic biological rhythms are tied to their world. Our sleep cycles, which naturally want to align with the rising and setting of the sun, are a deep memory of a life lived by the rhythms of daylight and darkness, long before the invention of artificial light. Feel the slow, deep movement of your own breath. This is a biological process, unchanged for millennia. Feel the gentle warmth of your own body, a personal furnace perfected for an age of ice. Listen to the rhythmic, steady beat of your own heart, an echo of the very first human hearts that beat with courage and hope in that ancient world. There is a deep, unbroken connection that stretches from them to you. It is a quiet comfort to know that their strength, their resilience, their adaptability is a part of your own biological inheritance. The story now comes full circle. Having explored the genetic legacy within us, we conclude by reflecting on the psychological legacy, the quiet, enduring spirit of our inner hunter-gatherer. And so, we arrive at our final reflection. The deepest legacy of the Ice Age is not just in our genes or in the artifacts left behind. It is in our minds, in our emotions, and in our spirit. For 95% of our history as a species, we lived as hunter-gatherers. The worlds of agriculture, industry, and information are just a fleeting moment in our long story. Our minds and our hearts are still fundamentally shaped by that ancient life. We all carry within us an inner hunter-gatherer. Think of the profound sense of peace that can come from simply being in nature. The quiet of a forest, the vastness of the sea, the silent majesty of a mountain. The biophilia hypothesis suggests that we have an innate biological need to connect with the natural world. This is not just a preference. It is a deep-seated echo of the fact that for millennia, the natural world was not something we visited, it was our home. The sense of calm we feel in a quiet, natural landscape is the feeling of returning to our native environment. Consider our deep need for community. Our brains are wired for deep social connection, because cooperation was the absolute key to survival in their small, interdependent bands. We are not meant to be solitary creatures. The warmth of friendship, the comfort of belonging, the joy of sharing an experience with others, these are not modern luxuries. They are fundamental human needs, a legacy of a time when our lives literally depended on one another. The satisfaction we feel from learning a new skill, from solving a complex problem, or from creating something beautiful with our own hands, mirrors the cognitive demands of their world. It is the echo of the joy of crafting the perfect flint point, of mapping out a successful hunting strategy, or of painting a perfect bison on a cave wall. Our deep-seated love of stories, of art, and of music is a direct continuation of the rich, symbolic culture they invented around the flickering light of the campfire. It is the way we make sense of the world, the way we share our values, and the way we connect with something larger than ourselves. Our desire to explore, to see what is over the next hill, is an echo of the nomadic lifestyle they led, a life of movement, following the seasons and the great herds. The The wonder you might feel when looking up at a clear, starry night sky is the same wonder they felt. They saw the same moon, the same constellations, and they told stories to explain them, just as we do. Their resilience, their incredible ability to adapt and thrive in a constantly changing world, is perhaps their greatest gift to us. The human spirit, forged in the crucible of the Ice Age, is defined by its ability to endure, to create, and to find hope in the face of immense challenges. By understanding their world, we can better understand the deepest, quietest parts of ourselves. The fire in the cave has dwindled to soft, glowing embers. The stories have been told, the music has faded, and a deep quiet has settled over the ancient world. The legacy of the Ice Age is not just a story of the past. It's a living echo within each of us. It is in our resilience, our creativity, and our deep need for connection. It is the quiet strength that has carried our human family through millennia. Thank you so much for joining me on this long journey tonight. I hope it has brought you a sense of wonder and peace. If you've enjoyed your time here, please consider liking this video and subscribing to Sleeping Scribe. Your support means the world to us. For now, there is nothing left to do but rest. Let the echoes of this lost world guide you into a deep and peaceful sleep. Good night.